straight into it. Beautiful team. So today, and in fact, the next 4 weeks are now moving into coaching specific skills. So the first 8 weeks is designed to give you an understanding of the foundation of how the human mind works, how emotional intelligence works, and to hopefully give you your own breakthroughs and your own insights so that you feel like you've developed, and hopefully you do feel like you've had some personal growth over these last 8 weeks. Now what we will do for the next 4 weeks is we will start putting everything into the right boxes so that you have everything you need to effectively deliver a coaching session. Now, as always, guys, we're going to teach you the theory. I'm going to show you today, we're going to go through the systems, but the only way that you will become better is by practicing. Now, remember, to pass this course, you have some theory exams, but we're not too concerned about that. What we're mostly concerned about is you doing your 3 trial coaching sessions. So to pass this course, you need to successfully complete 3 coaching sessions. You will record these and you will send them to us so that we can assess them. Now, it's going to be tough, it's going to be awkward, it's going to be weird because everything is like that at the beginning. But the only way you will get better is by practicing. All right? So as always, today I want you to go in with an open mind. I want you to simply understand the concepts. I don't want you to try parrot fashion them. I don't want you to try remember them. I just want you to get it. So, does this make sense, team? Are we on the same page? We know what's coming? Yalla, let's go. So, the coaching process, section number 9. Team, before we even get into it, let's do a quick recap of what a coach is. By the way, I loved all your explanations of what a coach is. Thank you so much for sharing them. As a nice, concise way to summarize, a coach is a professional change maker. Someone who has taken it upon them as their career or their profession to help others change too. Now, a coach helps people clarify what they want, identify the obstacles that are in their way, and put a plan of action in place. So we're going to show you in a little bit 5 questions that you can use to coach, right? So before you even finish this course, we'll give you 5 questions you can ask. And if you ask those questions, you are acting as a coach. Now, there's so much that's involved in coaching. We've been through so much, right? Human needs, emotions, beliefs, values. You're like, all of these things in my brain, I don't know how I'm going to apply them. Team, being a coach is actually very simple. You help people improve themselves. You help them change so that they can become who they want to be and they can create what they want to create. It's really that simple. It is not your job to create that for them. You are a professional facilitator, a guide. Now, I believe I was speaking to Sana about this on our session last week. We were talking about how we actually do a lot of these things already. Think about when you speak to a friend, when you speak to a colleague, sometimes when you speak to random strangers in the elevator who bring you their problems. You're there. You actively listen. You help encourage them to come up with solutions. This is what a coach does. When we think about things like values and belief systems, we already understand and notice this in our daily life. You can tell what someone values by what they focus on, by what they wear, by what they do. You can tell what they believe by how they behave and what they say with their words. So we're already doing this. This is the thing, right? And we hear this all the time. This is, and tell me if this is you, one of the most common things we hear from our students. I go to a random place like a shopping mall and random people approach me and start telling me their problems. Who's ever experienced that before, right? Because you just attract, you just give off that helping energy. So you already are doing a lot of these things. Active listening, empathy, problem solving. All we are doing now is putting that into a system so that when you go into a conversation, because that's what coaching is ultimately, you have a structure and a system. You have a checklist in your head where you can say, okay, this client is at this place. What are we going to do next? So that's all we're going to be taking you through over these next 4 weeks. What is the system? What is the recipe? So that you can practice it and then you can start refining it and making it your own. So we do that through a system known as the GROW model. Now, the GROW model is and was developed by a high-performance coach, and it's actually a very simple system. Now, we've adapted it a little bit, so if you've done research, and this is actually the case for most of this course, if you've done research on other coaching, what do we call these, systems and models, we use them and we've put our own unique spin on it from our experience and from our knowledge. So in our model, the GROW model has 5 distinct phases. Phase number 1 is goal. What do you want? What is the outcome? The second phase is R for reality. This is about what is happening right now. Understand what is going on in the client's life in this area right now. Where are they? What story do they tell themselves about where they are? What skills do they have? What resources do they have? What are they lacking? So phase G and phase R, and of course we're going to break these down in more detail, these lay the foundation. Before we can help someone make any change or make any progress, we must know what do they want and where are they now so that we can close the gap in between. Once we understand the goal and the reality, now we can ask the question, what is standing in the way? There's a reason they're coming to a coach. If they could achieve it, they would have already done it. If they are there in front of you, it means there are obstacles in their way. Our job is to then identify and pinpoint those obstacles. A problem well defined is a problem half solved. It's one of my favorite quotes from this section. You must pinpoint the obstacles that are in the way. When they're all over the place, if we feel all over the place. Yes, imagine looking at the peak of a mountain, there's a million steps to go. As a coach, we simplify things. We pinpoint the obstacles and then we move on to stage 4. Now in stage 4, this is options. This is the point where a lot of our interventions take place. Now, what is an intervention? An intervention is simply tackling a specific obstacle. Now, these obstacles may be external, meaning something the client has to do or get, or they can be internal, overcoming an emotion that is holding them back, breaking a limiting belief. So in the options phase, we really dig deep into what can we do to overcome this obstacle that we're facing. Do we need to do something differently? Do we need to think differently? Or is it a combination of both? So in the options phase, we're brainstorming, we're figuring out what can we do. And once we've brainstormed that, we go on to the final stage, which is W for will. What will we do? This is the difference between options and will. In the options phase, the question is, what can we do? How could things be different? How could we think differently? How could we respond differently? But in the W phase, this is where, as they say, the rubber meets the road. What will you do? What is the action that you commit to doing after this coaching session is finished? Now, this is a piece that a lot of coaches miss out on. They have these awesome breakthroughs, these awesome realizations. Oh, I should be doing X, Y, Z. I can see this situation differently, but there's no follow-up. Team, change only occurs when there is a change in our behavior. If there is no change in behavior, there is no change in mindset, period. You can talk all you want. You can have as many breakthroughs as you can, but without a different behavior, a different response, nothing will change. So these are the 5 phases that you move through as a coach. Now, firstly, does that make sense, guys? Is that simple? Can you see how that's logical, right? It's a very simple system. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things that go under each of these categories. At the same time, these don't always work in a linear fashion. What that means is it doesn't always neatly work: goal, reality, obstacles, options. Sometimes you have to mix it up. You have to play with it. As long as you understand that by the end of your session, by the end of this conversation, we should commit to a new action based on the insights that we've had. So what we're going to do today, team, is we are going to tackle phase G and phase R. We're going to figure out how do we do these phases. Next week, I will be taking you through obstacles and options. And in week number 3, I will be taking you through W for will. So I will be taking you through this model as it fits into these pieces. Charisse will be delivering content that supports the application of these different phases. So that's what we have ahead of us, team. Let us jump in straight away and see how to start. Now remember your role, and this is just a nice way to think about the GROW model in general. Who's ever used a GPS system before? Or Waze or Uber, something like that? We've all done it at some point. Yes, I'm sure. Now, when you open a GPS system or when you open Uber, it always asks you for 2 pieces of information. What is your end destination and where are you right now? Without those 2 pieces of information, you cannot possibly create a path. Because how on earth will you map out your path if you don't know where you want to go and you don't know where you're starting? That's like me saying to you, Dilraj, I want you to meet me in Saudi Arabia. Where in Saudi? It's huge. Where are you coming from? How can I guide you to get there if I don't know if you're coming from Qatar, from America, from Africa? Where you are and where you are going will determine the action steps that need to go in the middle. So your job is to act like that GPS system. Help them identify point A and point B. Once you have that, and you'll notice this on your GPS, if I put in point A and point B, my GPS system gives me multiple options. It says you can go this route and it's 10 minutes faster. This route is more scenic, but it takes longer. And this route, there's a roadblock. This is where we identify obstacles. What is standing in the way? What are the challenges that are preventing us from moving forward? And once we have generated these things, only then can we start committing to action. What we are doing is we are simplifying this process. We are chunking it down to here's where you are, here's where you want to be. What is obstacle number 1? What are we going to do about it? And very often, team, just that is a massive relief for people. Think about even in your life. You might have an area of your life that you want to change. But tell me, how challenging is it to firstly deal with this area when I've got this, and this going on at the same time, right? I want to get in shape, but I've got my kids, I've got my work, I've got my family. And number 2, let's say that's the case. Look at your physical fitness, but it's just so overwhelming because now I need to train properly. I need to eat properly. I need to fix my sleep. I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it gets so overwhelming that what do? We put it off. We procrastinate it. So even just what we have discussed in this last 10 minutes, just clarifying these things and focusing on obstacle number 1 is enough to provide a sense of relief. Because now there's focus. Now you have something actionable that you can work with. Sure, I've shared it with you before, but we'll share it again. What's the best way to eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. Exactly. So I was going to carry on with that metaphor, but let me not sound very grotesque and animal cruelty. We chunk problems down. Let's put it that way. So team, before we move forward, let me give you, and I actually included this in the slides today based on the last training we had. If you want to start coaching, if you do nothing else but ask these 5 questions, you are coaching. What do you want in this area? So you've got a problem. Cool. What do you want instead? Question 1. Number 2, if that's what you want, then tell me what is happening right now. What's your story? Because everyone's got a story, right? As to why they haven't got what they want. So what's the story? Based on that story, what is stopping you from moving forward right now? What's the first obstacle that's in your way? And what could we do about it? What are some potential things that we could do to solve this immediate problem. And based on these ideas, what will you commit to do next now that we've had this conversation? Hey Mobin, hope you're doing well. We've just started. We've covered the GROW model, which is the model we will be using in coaching. And these questions are an easy way to start coaching. Now, team, if you can do this, you are coaching. That's it. Now, of course, we can go a lot deeper, which is why we do a 12-week program. But can you notice and see how each of these questions relates to each of the parts of the GROW model? Goal, reality, obstacle, option, will. That is coaching in a nutshell. If you can move through this process, you are helping people create momentum. You are helping them take action on the things they want to do. You are helping them take responsibility for the changes they want to make. And this is the root of being a coach. So let us dive into what I like to call the warm-up. Now, those of you who exercise, before you exercise, you need to warm up, right? So that you don't injure your joints. Well, at least if you're above 25. If you're under 25, no warm-up is required, apparently. Now, the same is true in coaching. And I introduced this because, especially with some of our previous coaches, they're fantastic coaches. They've really internalized this. But because they're so passionate, when their trial client sits down, the first thing they say to them is, what would you create in a world where you could create anything? Now, that's a beautiful question, and it's powerful, and we use that. But let's dial it down a notch for the start, right? This person's just come from work, right? Let's ease into the heavy stuff. So that's why we do a warm-up. We build rapport, we create psychological safety. Firstly, clear your own mind so that you are calm and you are curious. You'll recall that state from last week. You need to be in a good place before you have this conversation. Of course, you wouldn't do this on every single session, but it's very important at the beginning to clarify what coaching is and what it is not. As a very basic summary, coaching is a collaboration. You have a goal, you're an expert in your life. My job is to support you. I always use the example of personal training because obviously that's very near and dear to our hearts. I, as a personal trainer, as a fitness coach, will not lift the weight for you, but I will support you and guide you to lift that weight yourself. So that's the way I like to describe my role as a coach. Set confidentiality and boundaries. So confidentiality, it's always really nice just to remind people of this in the beginning because it makes them feel more at ease. To remind them that, hey, I'm your coach. In this relationship, anything you tell me is confidential, and this will not be shared with anyone else. Do not assume that they know that. Tell them. It gives them a sense of safety, of security, that they can be open and vulnerable with you. And of course, state those boundaries. For example, I'm not here to do things for you. I'm here to support you in doing them yourself. Any additional boundaries, obviously, is up to you. Right? If you'll text them in between. For me, for example, what my blanket statement is that I'm always here. If you want to message me, day, night, doesn't matter. You can message me anytime. However, I will only respond between these days and these hours. Very basic, just to set your boundaries from the beginning. And of course, just use some ice-breaking questions before you get really deep. What brought you here today? How are you doing? Where did you hear about coaching? Where do you live? What are your hobbies? Ease into the conversation, all right? Very basic things, but very much worth noting before you dive into a real coaching session. So let's look at the main topic for today, team, which are the goal and reality phases. So identifying point A and point B is step number one. Now, often these phases kind of overlap with each other. So my invitation for you, team, when you use the GROW model, is don't look at it like, okay, I've done this, now I move on to this. I like to think of it more like a checklist. So my initial goal, excuse the pun, is to help myself and my client identify the goal. Now, they might talk about a million other things before that. They might tell me their story. They might tell me about their obstacles. My first objective is to get them clear on what they actually want. From there, I'm going to find out more about their story, their reality. So as I said, these are not clean-cut phases. They overlap sometimes. You're not trying to solve problems at this stage. You are trying to learn as much as possible about the client's current reality and their end goal. Now, this in of itself, especially for people who have never done coaching or for people who simply don't talk about themselves and their goals very much, just doing this alone can be really powerful. And we'll see why that's the case very shortly. So ultimately, phase G and phase R are about identifying the gap. What is the gap between what the client wants and where they are now? This is phase number 1. If you recall the formula for happiness that Charisse took you through, your blueprint, meaning your internal world, your expectations, your beliefs, when this matches reality, you're happy because your inner world matches your outer world. If your blueprint does not meet your reality, you will feel unhappy. Now, obviously, that's a very generic way to say it, but this is the basic formula for happiness. It comes back to the same old saying that we've been saying from day one, right? If you're unhappy, you can either change the world or change how you think about it. Those are your choices. What we're doing in phase G and R is we are working to identify this gap. What is this gap between the client's model of the world of how it should be and their reality, so that we can help them close the gap between them? And as always, it usually includes a bit of both. Changing how you think, but also changing what you do. So that is the real outcome and goal of these two phases. Now, there's usually two types of people when it comes to goals. Or if put in a different way, there's two types of people that usually come for coaching. Very generalized terms here, obviously. There's two camps here. Camp number 1 is, I know what I want and I need help working towards it. Someone comes in, I want to change my career. I want a coach's support to do that. I want to lose 10 kgs. I want a coach's support to do that. I want to fix my marriage. I want a coach's support to do that. On the other hand, you have people who aren't yet at that stage where they have defined what they want, but instead they know what they don't want. They have problems and they need help solving them. Now, we're going to deal with both of these the same way in the end, but there's just a little step in between that we need to talk about. So when it comes to people who, I have a problem, our first objective in this G for goal phase is to gain clarity on this problem by using open-ended questions and clarifying questions. Now, ultimately what you're doing here, and to be honest, team, and this is a random number I'm guessing just from experience, 80% of people you interact with are in this camp. They just know that they're not happy. Something's wrong, they have problems, they're unhappy. So the very first objective of a coach is to turn the problem into a goal. Because if we focus on problems, we're going to get more problems. The first function that you have as a coach is to say, great, here's the problem. What do you want instead? So what is a positive something that we can work towards? The most common example that I can think of from my experience is, well, I don't like the way my body looks. I don't have energy. I'm overweight. I don't like how I look. Cool. What do you want instead? So instead of focusing on what can I move away from, we ask the question, what can I move toward? So we help them set a positive goal. And here are some questions that you can ask to get this out of them. Firstly, what is the situation right now? Now notice we're talking about reality first before we talk about the goal. And we do that because this person is not yet at that goal phase. They're still caught up in the problem. So tell me more about what's been happening. How would you define this problem if you were describing it to a 5-year-old? Now, we use this question to force them to start simplifying the problem. Because again, people will come in, and as a coach, you'll feel overwhelmed. Because sometimes people come in and they're just a bag of problems, right? They're like, I'm overweight, I fight with my husband all the time, my career sucks, my family is in shambles. And you're like, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? How am I going to solve all of this? Start by making it simple. Break down the problems and get specific using those clarifying questions. Get as clear as possible on what this problem actually is. Now, once you've defined this problem, and we're going to show you some additional tools you can use, we will then move on to the goal setting part. So stay with me for a second. We're going to go on a bit of a windy road, but we are going to come back around to the goal setting. So someone comes in, I have a problem or problems. The first goal is to clarify it. What is the problem? Get clear on that issue. Now, a very, very useful tool for this, especially if someone comes in and their level of emotional intelligence is low. So what they'll often say is, well, I'm just unhappy. Like, I can't tell you the problem. Life just sucks, right? Who's ever spoken to someone like that before? Yeah. Life just sucks. You're like, what's wrong? Nothing, but life just sucks. Like, okay, well, so this is actually something we shared earlier. Joanna, you've spoken about this before. Now, I like to think of this as the wheel of awareness. Now, often what you'll see and what you can see on the diagram here is something called the wheel of life. Now, I call it the wheel of awareness, and the reason is because you can customize this to any area that you want. If it is a general life sucks, cool. Let's look at my life in all of its different components. A nice activity I like to use, or a metaphor, I guess you could call it, is I say to my client, well, imagine you looked at your house and you took every single thing in your house, every drawer, every cupboard, every piece of furniture, and you threw it onto your front lawn. And from there, you had to put it into 10 different boxes. So everything needed to fit into one of these 10 boxes. What would you label each of those boxes? Now, when we do the wheel of life, you can see how we split these into all the main areas of life. Now, I like to ask the question first because sometimes people differentiate their life differently. Some people, for example, separate relationships into family and intimate relationship. Other people put them all in one category. Some people separate physical health and mental health. Some people put them in the same category. So really open up the conversation to ask, if you had to chunk your life into 10 different buckets or boxes, what would you label each of them? Now, this is a very good way for those people who have problems, they have issues, they're unhappy, but they don't have a set direction. This will help them figure out which area am I struggling in. Now, you would then rate these on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being, I am super happy with this area. So I'm making 2 billion reals a month. Finances is a 10 out of 10. Let's say my health is a 5 out of 10. That was an example, by the way. I'm most certainly not making 2 billion reals per month. So the point is, you're rating all these different areas of your life. Now, here's the one key. When you've rated each of these areas, do not jump to the conclusion that you must address the lowest area. So let's say someone said friends is at a 3 out of 10, but finances is at a 5. Do not assume that they want to work on the area that is lowest. Ask them, which of these areas, if we addressed it, would have the biggest impact on your quality of life, on your happiness? Let them decide where to go first. Because very often, when one area increases, the other areas tend to increase too. Someone may not be willing right now, or may not be comfortable enough with you to deal with family. Maybe they've suffered a loss. Maybe they're not willing to share that yet. But maybe they are willing to look at their health or their finances. So team, this is essentially how you use this tool to start identifying which area this person needs to develop in. Now, I told you that this is customizable. Now, I would suggest that whatever area, let's say, for example, I actually did this, it was quite a cool example with a young kid. I say young, I'm just getting old now. And he wanted to improve his physique. So instead of the wheel of life, we did the wheel of muscle. So in each of these categories, we put arms, legs, chest, back, abs, and he ranked them on a scale of 1 to 10. So we could figure out what is the area that he needs to focus on the most. So that's why I say I would prefer for you to leave this open to the client. What area are you talking about? Let's say, for example, it's your finances. Well, your finances could have multiple components, right? It could be your income, your passive income, your savings, your assets. So essentially, team, I just want you to not only take away the wheel of life here. I want you to understand how this awareness wheel works. And I want you to then customize it to whatever the client has in front of you. If they are zero clue what to do, I'm just unhappy, use the wheel of life. Ask them, all the areas of your life, if you had to chunk them into 10 boxes, what would you label them? And then rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. If they know a particular area, then you can ask them, in this area called career, what are the different components? And what would you rank them on a scale of 1 to 10? So that's why this works so powerfully. It helps us direct the client's focus to where they want to work on first. And this is how you take someone who has problems but no direction, and you help give them a direction to start with. Team, did that make sense? Is this practical? Right? Can you see how this will work in reality? Beautiful. So now we've dealt with the camp of people. I have a problem, and that's about all I know. The people who know what they want already, we don't need to do those phases necessarily. We can just go straight into goal setting, which is what we're going to move into very shortly. Awesome. 100% Mobin. So like I said, team, all of these things, I think you missed that at the beginning, Mobin, but it's a good recap. All of these tools, as long as you get them, that's cool. But you're going to practice them with your trial client. So that's when the rubber is going to meet the road. So now we can get into the real chunk of G for goal, which is actual goal setting. Who's ever heard of the SMART goal setting method before? Awesome. Now, I'm going to brag a bit. I'm going to have a bit of ego. I think we can teach this model better than anyone else has taught it before, because we can go deeper on each of these things. I've learned this about 1 billion times in 1 billion courses, and it's always the same lame generic stuff. Today, I want to show you how we can help someone create a goal that's actually motivating, that actually gets them out of bed in the morning. All right, let's go. So firstly, before we go on, just a quick note on this, team. The very same as with the GROW model, I don't want you to think of this as a series of consecutive steps. I want you to think of this as a checklist. And I keep encouraging this because what I've noticed is that coaches have their checklist of questions, they go through it, but if the client diverts to another part, then I lose my mind, right? Because I'm like, you've taken me off my schedule. This is a checklist. You're just meant to get all of them by the end. The conversation might wind. Your job is to make sure you hit these milestones. So firstly, S for specific. The more specific your outcome, the easier it will be to achieve. Now, we are going to use some questions that we discussed last week. We discussed open-ended questions. We discussed visionary questions. And we discussed goal-orientated questions. So how it works is like an upside-down triangle. First, we get them to describe to us the big picture. And then we start clarifying and going down and down and down until we have a very clear goal. So what I'm going to ask you to do, team, is I'm going to ask you to answer question 1, but I'm going to take you through it first. What would you create here in this area if anything was possible? So someone who knows what they want, even if they tell you, I want to lose that 10 kgs, I want to fix my marriage. The first thing we do is we engage that emotional brain, not the logical brain. We ask them, if you were a kid on Christmas, if you were a kid in a candy store, what would you create? If anything was possible, what body would you have? What marriage would you have? What career would you have? How much money would you have? And describe it to me in as much detail as possible. Now you'll see in the brackets here, it says, what does a 10 out of 10 look like? If you've used that wheel of awareness, maybe they said they're a 5 out of 10 in their body. Cool. What does a 10 out of 10 look like? So team, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 2 minutes. And in this 2 minutes, I want you to pretend like nothing, no rules of the universe exist. And I want you to write down in the area that you want to improve, what would you create if you had a magic wand? Go. No limitations exist. Whatever you want in this area, engage that child brain again, that unreasonable mind. The desire you had before someone convinced you that it wasn't possible. Last 60 seconds, get it out. No limitations, no adult brain here. Only endless sugar, unicorns, fairies, flying dragons. Last 10 seconds to go. Get it down. What would you create if you could have everything you want? And time. Beautiful. All right. Who is willing to share with us? Raise your hand if you're willing to share. If not, I'm going to pick someone like a sniper. I see a lot of laughing. I don't see a lot of hand raising. Oh, Joanna, you raised both hands. Specifically because you're working on the fear of public speaking, I'm going to pick on you. You want to unmute yourself and tell us in this area, tell us the area and tell us what would you create if anything was possible?
So in regards to public speaking, I will just create my the perfect mindset. Yeah, I said perfect, but it should not be perfect. The mindset that I should speak like nobody's there, and like I am like with my own personality, and I should not be refrained from anything or be afraid, or yeah. So like this will be like my mind. I want to create my mind differently.
And what would that look like? So if you went, so tell me exactly what it would look like in an ideal world if you could just get up public speaking as you want, 10 out of 10.
um in regards to the mind, how will look like.
Just tell me your experience. Like imagine you were viewing yourself from a third party. Imagine you were sitting in the crowd and you saw yourself come out onto stage. How would you perform?
Confident, smiling, open gesture, relaxed. So basically, yeah, this is it.
Beautiful. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Joanna. Awesome. So, yes, Amy, tell me. The more the merrier. I don't know if Amy's frozen or if her hand is just up statically.
No, it was up.
Got you.
So I just thought I would share because, I don't want Iwana to be alone. So so I just chose something that was a dream of mine when I was younger and I never did it. So that's if like I could snap my fingers and do it, I would do it. So I chose that if I could like be, anything that I want to be, I would be a professional swimmer. And I would take part in like Iron Man or Iron Woman and be like super fit and and like swim across like lakes and rivers and just be competitive, like a competitive swimmer. So that's my dream.
Incredible. I literally got goosebumps. I don't know if you can see them over there, like actual goosebumps. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Amy. And thanks for keeping Joanna company on the public speaking stage.
You're welcome.
Amazing. Beautiful, team. So great job. And I'm so sorry we don't have time to listen to all of yours. I would love to hear them all. But team, firstly, how did that feel? Did it feel good to write down, to like really express that? And that's your first job as a coach. Now, before we go on break, I'll just clarify on this section. A lot of the time, people think that's all that coaching is, right? It's like this pump up. Like, imagine you could do anything. Now, this is important because it engages that child mind again. It gets you out of those limitations. It breaks through that ceiling. Now, that doesn't mean we have to accomplish that 10 out of 10. But what it does is that it raises the bar. It engages the creativity and the energy. Now, what we would now do is we would start taking it from that funnel further down to something more tangible and something more immediate. So we use those open-ended and visionary questions. Now, team, bear in mind, all of these questions, it's a prompt. It doesn't mean you're going to sit with a paper, ask one question, listen, and say, okay, I heard that, now let's go to the second. You might have to dig a little bit, right? You might have to encourage them. Think about what I did with Joanna. I went a little deeper. Tell me more about that. What would it feel like? What would it look like? How would you be? So the goal is not to sit and ask the question. It's to engage that person's thinking. Now, notice these different questions as we go down. What would the first milestone on the way to this goal look like? In other words, what is 1 point higher on that scale? So let's take Amy's example. I'm just going to assume it's in the category of physical fitness or athletics, whatever she chose to label it. If that's 10 out of 10 and you've put yourself at a 6 out of 10, what does a 7 look like? So we open the mind, we engage the energy, and then we bring it down to logic. When you stay in logic, you don't have the creativity to grow. When you stay in emotional brain, you don't have the practicality to start. So we combine the both. Combine the both? I don't know if that's proper English, but we'll go with it. So how can we frame this goal in the most specific way possible? Can you tell me more about that? When you say, if this is an example, when you say you would have more time, what does that look like practically? So the idea here in S for specific is to get very clear on the immediate goal in front of us. Open up the mind and then slowly narrow that goal down. So for example, maybe Amy says, well, I want to be swimming 3 times per week. Now notice that's very different from swimming across oceans, doing Ironman, doing all of these things, but it's in the right direction. You get what I'm saying? You see the difference? It's not living in logic and it's not we're not keeping our head in the clouds. We're going wide and then we're bringing it narrow. So just get very, very specific and ask, can you tell me more about that? Can you be more specific? Until you have that concrete outcome. And that's what I encourage you guys to have now. And in the break, if you want to refine it, I encourage you to do it. Look at the area. Tell me your 10 out of 10. Then show me the immediate goal to work towards. Show me the milestone that you want to reach, because that now becomes our target for the coaching program or for that conversation. Awesome. So just before we go on break, team, can you open the chat box for me and let me know on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about the content we've covered so far? Let me know. The goal is to be insightful, but it's more so than that, it's practicality. I want you to walk away with very tangible tools that you can use when you are coaching people. Beautiful. Nice. All right, looking good. I cannot believe the time went that quickly. All right, so team, it is now 10 minutes. You know I'm very bad when it comes to the time zone. It's 10 minutes to the hour, wherever that hour may be. Let's take a 10-minute break and we'll meet back on the hour. So I'll see you back in 10 minutes, team. Get some water. I'll see you shortly. Thank you so much. Okay, so in session number 1, guys, we had a look firstly at the GROW model overall, so what it's for, what it's about, and now we've had a deeper look at the G phase for goal. We started working on our SMART goal setting method, and we've just finished with S for specific. So getting them to visualize that ideal end outcome and then filtering it down to a specific concrete goal that they are going to work towards. Now, S is for specific. Now, when we move on to the next phase, which is M for measurable. So there's a very famous saying that you cannot manage what you do not measure. So when we are conducting a goal setting process with a client, it's very important that we help them understand how will they know once they have achieved the goal. We need some kind of way to gauge progress as we move towards that outcome. So here are some of these key questions that you can ask. And what I'd like you to do, team, is I'd like you to answer all of these questions now. Number 1, how will you know when you have achieved this goal? And that kind of blends into number 2, which is very simply, how can we measure your progress? Now, to make this more specific, and apologies, let me actually rephrase this. I don't need you to answer every question here. What I need you to come up with are a set of metrics, a set of ways that we can measure your progress. Now, these could be external metrics. For example, if you're in the world of weight loss, you're going to measure weight, you're going to measure body fat. If we're talking about finances, it might be income, net worth. If we're talking about relationships, it could be the number of disagreements, the level of satisfaction. Internal metrics are something, of course, internal. So this could be things like your energy, your confidence, your ability to focus, your level of satisfaction in a relationship. So there are external metrics and internal metrics. But essentially what we want to understand here is that when we're setting this goal, how will we know that we're moving in the right direction? What things are we going to routinely track so that we can make sure that we have our finger on the pulse, so to say? When we say here behavioral metrics, this is something that you do. For example, consistently going to the gym, consistently practicing active listening with your partner, consistently studying, consistently putting your hand up at work to have input so you can go for that promotion. So what metrics can you use to measure your progress in this area? I'll give you about another 60 to 90 seconds, team, but if you would, please open up the chat box and give us some examples. Give us some examples from what you've come up with. How can you track your progress? And if you're struggling with it, let me know and we can walk you through it. You can also rank your emotions on a scale of 1 to 10. It's quite a nice way to kind of track your progress. For example, less anxiety, more confidence. So how will we measure progress? And the bare minimum that you would need from someone is just one metric. How do you know that you are making progress towards this goal? Daily journal, track table. Yes, perfect. So tell me, Joanna, what would you track in that diary? So if you were having that journal, if you had that table, what would you actually measure? Now, some measurements are harder than others, but what we're looking for here is some kind of unit of measurement. You measure distance in kilometers.
Yes, let's
measure
say
water in liters. Sorry, Joanna?
Yeah, let's say if it's about fitness, you will track like repetition or sets for each exercise, and you'll either calculate daily or by week, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you
or
could
like
check outcomes.
water intake.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
Water intake, and that can also be for example, my energy levels on a scale of 1 to 10, my body fat levels on a scale of 1 to, right? So any kind of metrics that you can use to track your progress. Beautiful. So we need a goal that's specific. We take it up high, then we make it very narrow and tangible. Trial and error for a baking business, I like that. I can make a template after my workshops and the people can let me know what's good or not. 100% feedback, right? That's a very good external metric. One of the metrics we use for these courses are the reviews that all you lovely people leave us, and we track the reviews, right? That's our metric. How do we know if this course is working? So it must be measurable. The next phase is A for achievable. Now, these kind of questions revolve around helping the client understand, is the goal that they've set realistic and achievable for them? Now, it's very important to note, especially when you deal with type A personalities, right? People who are very driven, very motivated. They often take on a lot more than they can handle. What we're doing here is we're kind of looking for, do they have the time and energy to commit to this goal? Now, it doesn't mean, is it achievable ever? Anything is achievable over a long enough time horizon. But the question is, with this specific goal, right now, in this phase of your life, is this achievable? So an example of that would be, let's say, and we use this in our fitness course, you have two people, person A, person B. Both of them want to lose 20 kgs in 6 months. Person A is 20 years old, no job, lives at home, all their meals are made for them, works out twice per day. Person B is 55 years old, has 3 kids, is married, works 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. Which do you think is more achievable? Who do you think it's more achievable for? And it's obviously person A, because they simply have more time and more energy. So when you're talking about achievable, what you're really asking is for insight into, do you have the time and energy to commit to this goal? Have you ever done something like this before? And which resources do you still need? So you're figuring out, do they have the resources available? Now, if they do not have the resources available, you don't abandon the goal, you simply shrink it. You shrink it down to an achievable size. So person B, 55 years old, 3 kids, full-time job, instead of let me lose 20 kgs in 6 months, perhaps you could make it, I'll lose 10 kgs in 6 months. So here you're really looking for what resources does the client currently have at their disposal. Same thing, I actually had a conversation with a prospective student the other day, and they were asking me how long until I'm able to make, it was the amount of money they were currently making, how long will it take me to earn X amount once I get my diploma? So I asked them, well, firstly, have you done something like this before? Do you have any existing skills and strengths that currently could help you do that? Now, because this person is coming from zero experience, the goal to make that amount of money might take 1 to 2 years. However, someone who has a load of skills, extra experience, that timeline might be shorter. So achievable is about asking, with the resources that you have available, is this goal doable? Now, in a little bit, we're going to look at T for time bound. I'm actually going to skip to that, and you're going to see how these things line up. So if we just skip over here, we're going to come back to R shortly. It's the most important piece of the whole model. A and T, achievable and time bound, they work together. Because if you ask me, is it possible to lose 50 kgs in 2 days? It is. You just have to chop off an arm and a leg, right? And then you'll lose that 50 kgs easy. But the point is that it's not realistic and achievable within the timeline you've set. So if it is not achievable within the timeline you've set, you always have 2 options. Extend the timeline or shrink the goal. You always have those 2. Why do we do this? Because we want something that's achievable. If it's not achievable, they will consistently feel demotivated. So what is a realistic deadline for this goal? What will you sacrifice by having this timeline? Very important question. Some people get super motivated. Yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to lose the 20 kgs in 6 months. But you're going to sacrifice time with your family. You're going to sacrifice time that you could be working and building your business. So it's important to ask these questions so that you can frame the goal in a way that fits into their life, that's achievable within the context of their life. What will you need to do to honor this timeline? What will you have to sacrifice? Because that's the thing, right? We all have the same 24 hours in the day. It's not a question of how we use our time. It's a question of what do we sacrifice? Because you only have that much time. And one of my favorite questions to ask, how will you feel about this timeline next week? So move beyond the motivated, pumped up, I can do anything. Let's get real. Next week, when the excitement has worn off, which it will, how will you feel about this timeline? We don't want to overwhelm people and help them set a goal that makes their life more overwhelming instead of actually getting better. So team, this is A for achievable and T for time bound, and they kind of work together. The real goal here and understanding of this phase is, do I have the resources available within the time that I've set? And if not, extend the time or reduce the goal. Before we move to the final and most important piece of this goal setting method, team, are we on the same page so far? Is this practical? Is it making sense? Because if it's not practical, we do it again. And now the most important piece of the SMART goal setting method. R for relevant. Goals that are not linked to your values either do not get achieved, or, and this is even worse, you achieve them, but you don't feel any better because of it. There's no tangible improvement in the quality of your life. This is often the case when people chase goals because they've been told that's what they should do, or they think other people think they should do that. You achieve it, you feel no extra fulfillment. The quality of your life does not improve. Your wheel does not get higher. Goals that are not linked to values are doomed. And this is why we covered values in such a close proximity, because it's very important that what change you want to make, this goal that you're setting to make this change in your life, it's linked back to things that matter most to you. So, in this area of your life, and this is reflecting session 4 when we spoke about those values, what really matters? We did this activity in week 4. So think about the area of your life that you're talking about now. What really matters in that area? What are your values? And then ask yourself, why are you pursuing this goal? How does achieving this goal link to your values? Your values are the person you want to be. They're the kind of person you want to embody. If your goals do not further your values, they will not bring you fulfillment because they are not important to you. So truly ask yourself, look at this goal that you've now written down, and I want you to take the next 2 minutes and I want you to write down the top 3 values that achieving this goal will fulfill for you. If I want to lose weight, what values is it meeting? Health, discipline. If I want to improve my marriage, what values is that working towards? Family, love, connection. If I want to change my career, if I want to get this promotion, why do I actually want it? Is it going to give me the freedom that's high on my value list? Or is it actually going to take it away and it's actually just giving me status instead? Probably the wrong goal. And you can use all these other questions as prompts to find these 3 values that actually relate to your goal. How will achieving this goal improve your life? Are you doing this for you alone, or are other people's priorities influencing you? Which other values could suffer as a result of pursuing this goal? This is often the case where you pursue a goal to further one value, maybe financial freedom, but then you sacrifice your health and your family instead. So the question is this goal really relevant? Does it really match my life values? And if not, we need to change it. How will achieving this goal help you become the person you want to be? So I just want you to find those 3 top values that achieving this goal will help you fulfill. Last 30 seconds. Team, when you're done, let us know in the chat, even if you just share one of your values. Which value will this goal help you fulfill? Let us know in the chat. All right, and that is time. Open up the chat box, team. Let us know. Just one of your values that this goal is linked to. And I know this can be a hard question to answer, but it's the most important question. It's literally the question of, is this goal worth pursuing? Community. Beautiful, Jonathan. So we're trying to figure out, why does this goal matter? People don't wake up at 5 a.m. to do burpees so they can stand on a piece of plastic and tell them a specific number on the scale. They do it because they want to feel healthy. They want to feel confident. They want to feel attractive. So why is this goal important? Your values are what you stand for. They are a core part of who you are. And when a goal relates to a value, that's where motivation comes from. And I can tell you, the only thing worse than failing to achieve a goal is achieving a goal and not feeling good about it. Because not only then have you failed, you've wasted your time. And this is the root of how we motivate our clients, by knowing why they are pursuing this in the first place. Meaningful relationships, spot on. So take your time, team. Take your time with this. We're going to move forward, but if you need to return to this on your own time, you may. Was this a trickier part? Was this a bit challenging, guys? Let me know. Because a lot of people usually struggle with this section. So team, that is how we use the SMART goal setting model to set up a specific goal. Dilraj says significance. Beautiful. So for example, I actually had a client like this previously, a few years ago. She wanted to, her goal was simply to speak up more. And she linked that back to her feeling of significance and self-respect and autonomy. And remember, when you know these values, these are like trigger words for you. You want to motivate someone? Remind them of the value of what they're doing. Because what you are then doing is you are making it very clear that if you want to achieve this goal, you need to become this kind of person. And that's really what it's about at the end of the day. Oops, sorry. Let me not break the... Be more forgiving. Lovely, Sana. Love it. So when it gets hard, when you have to do something that's challenging, the goal won't motivate you. The value will. Beautiful. So team, that is G for goal. Those are some of the tools that you can use to help someone clarify what it is that they want. If they've come in with problems, your job is to turn that problem into a goal. And you ask the very simple question, what do you want and why do you want it? What are the values that are driving this? So let me know, guys, that section we covered on values, for example, can you now see how this relates to the coaching process? Yes, no, medium, awesome. So that is why we're linking these different things in. Before we go for the final piece, team, sit up in your chairs, roll your shoulders, put a smile on your face. It's a beautiful day to have a beautiful day. It's very stormy and cold here in South Africa, but nonetheless, we push on. Now let's look at reality. Now, reality is one of those sections where it's very hard to put your finger on exactly what you're trying to ask. In reality, it's very simple, actually. You're trying to understand the client's story. You're trying to understand their model of the world. Because now that you have a goal, you have the end destination, you are now looking at where they are now. The story that they have about why they aren't where they want to be. So what I'm going to do is, before you start answering, I'm going to get you to answer one of these questions, but let me just run you through them and explain the why behind asking these questions. So firstly, where are you now in relation to your goal? Immediately, the client is going to tell you the story about why they are here and not there. What is happening in this area right now? Again, they are telling you their story about what is going on right now. Now remember, this is where you have to put that coach's hat on. And remember to respect their model of the world, to be open to it. Because what they are telling you are not facts, that it is their perception of the facts. Not because you're the coach and they're the client, because we're all human beings. So your job is to listen with an open mind, to actively listen for their version of reality. What story have you told yourself about what is happening now? Very powerful question. This is where you'll start to hear all the belief systems about why they haven't done it, why they haven't got it. What is working well, what is not working well? Start figuring out what is doing well for them in this area, what isn't going well. So you can start to identify the issues. In the reality phase, we do look for obstacles. But in the obstacles phase, we pinpoint them. There's a difference. Reality, I want the whole story. You say your relationship sucks and you want it to get better? Tell me the story. Tell me the tea from top to bottom. What's going on? I'm listening for their beliefs about the situation, what needs they aren't having met, the emotions that are underlying that, which is going to give me insight into what's going on in their head. Why haven't you succeeded yet? Perfect question to find out all the belief systems about why they have not achieved it. Which emotions or behaviors tend to get in your way? We're understanding what's preventing them from moving forward. Which external obstacles are stopping you right now? Money, time, finances, situations, environments. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you now in relation to this goal? Now, we do kind of do that in the wheel of life, but the question that really hits home here is why this number? So if Amy says she's a 6 out of 10 in her fitness, why a 6 and not a 7? Why a 6 and not a 5? Now, the number itself means nothing. What I'm trying to understand is, in Amy's model of the world, why does she feel she's at a 6? She's better than a 5, but she's not at a 7. So why does Amy believe she's at a 6? What needs to change in your environment to make this happen? Their beliefs about what needs to happen out here so they can achieve. And what needs to change within you to make this happen? So I'm going to come back to this in a second to answer. But what we're really looking for here, team, are all these things we've been discussing over the last few weeks. We are actively listening. What to look for, active listening. That sounds like a pun. So we are looking for all of these things that are going on in their head. What is their beliefs about what's happening? What do they seem to value? Which human needs are not being met here? When someone tells me about their work and they talk to me about that one colleague, I listen for their tone of voice and I can pick up there's some frustration there. What does frustration mean? This person is now stepping over their values and beliefs. So in the reality phase, we often go back to reality because reality is very simple, team. What is happening in this person's world? Not the world, in their world. What is their story? What are their values? What are their needs that are going unmet? What emotions are holding them back? This is where we put our active listening hats on more than any time. We know the goal. Now we've got to understand what is their reality. Because the ultimate question is going to be, what obstacle is in their way? Do they need to change how they think? Or do they need to change what they do? So, team, I'm going to give you this list and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do it. And I need you to be honest with yourself here because I can't check. Look at this list right now. And before you answer, I want you to ask yourself, which question on this list scares you the most to answer? Choose it and answer it now. You have 2 minutes. Let's go. Which of these questions do you want to answer the least? And now answer it. Awesome, Joanna. Write it down. Write down the answer for that right now. Whatever scares you the most, do it now. Not tomorrow, now. And within your answer, you will find the story. Last 60 seconds. Don't overthink it. Go with your gut. Get uncomfortable. And that is time. So, who is sharing with us? Joanna's gone already. She can't go again. Who's going to raise their hand? Let us know. Why haven't you succeeded yet? I'm not focused. Okay, awesome, Dilraj. Thank you for sharing that. So why haven't you succeeded yet? I'm not focused. So now we can start to understand a little bit more about her reality, even from that one piece of information. She doesn't feel she's focused enough, and that's why she hasn't achieved it. We're identifying obstacles. Lack of discipline. Fantastic. Now we start to understand why Joanna hasn't achieved that goal yet. Her story is that she's not disciplined enough. Fear of change as well. Awesome. So that's the whole goal behind this reality phase, team. We are looking for obstacles. We're looking for it's about understanding this human being. What is their story about why they are where they are? And now we can go to our final power question. Now, this is a very confusing set of questions, but a very powerful one to start rooting people in motivation before you even take a step further. Now, you're going to need 3 minutes for this one because it's a bit confusing. I'm going to read the questions out first so you can really get them. What will happen if you achieve your goal? What won't happen if you do achieve your goal? So firstly, we're asking, what is the positive outcome of achieving this goal? What won't happen? So what is the negative consequence you can avoid if you achieve this goal? What will happen if you don't achieve this goal? We're looking at the negative sides of not achieving it. And what won't happen if you don't achieve this goal? What pain will you experience if you fail? So I'm going to give you 3 minutes. If your brain hurts reading this, you're doing it correctly. 3 minutes, and I want you to answer these on your paper. Let's go. These questions are meant to challenge you to think differently. Go with your gut instinct. What we are doing here is applying pain and pleasure to both sides. We are surfacing the pain and pleasure that we can use and press on when things get hard for our client. What is the good if you win? What is the bad if you don't? We are utilizing pain and pleasure. Beautiful. Last few seconds, get it in. All right. And that is time. I know these answers and the timing is intense, team, but we do it on purpose because I don't want you to overthink. I want you to use your gut. Now, I highly suggest using these questions because, like I said, they take, imagine like two walls, pain and pleasure, and you use it to push your client towards higher levels of motivation. It's also very useful in this reality phase because it helps you understand what are the pain and pleasures that are on either side of this goal. So if Joanna says, if I ask her the question, what won't happen if you achieve this goal? She say, I won't miss out on the opportunity to get a job that I want, as an example. Do you have an answer for this, Joanna? Tell me. Let me not put words in your mouth as an example. Let me ask you, what won't happen?
It was for public speaking, and I said, no one will laugh at me.
So what won't happen if you achieve this goal? Yeah. And tell me, if you don't tackle this challenge and you don't face this fear and you don't work on this public speaking, what will you miss out on?
I will miss on the opportunity to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be disappointed if I won't do this.
Beautiful. So notice, and I'm not angling you out, she started with humor because you know what humor does? It deflects things, yeah, off to the side. But as a coach, what you do is you laugh and you go straight back to the pain. because what won't happen is I'm trying to find what is that pain. I want to take the pain of you not changing and bring it as close to you as I can, because that's what's going to motivate you. Yes?
Let me see if I understood correctly, because I might be far away. So what will happen if you achieve this goal? I said I'll be happy and confident. And then what won't happen if you achieve this goal? I was more like thinking that if I speak in public, they will not laugh at me if I do it. And if I achieve it, right?
Perfect. Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer. The goal as a coach, just to clarify for you, the goal as a coach is you're just looking for the pain and the pleasure. That's it.
Yeah. So yeah, because this is my pain. I'm thinking like, oh, they will laugh at me if I'm doing something wrong, like if I'm saying something wrong, correct? So that's the pain I was. And then the third one was maybe nothing, or I'll be disappointed.
Perfect.
And then the fourth, I won't get hurt or be scared anymore to speak in public.
Perfect. And this is the thing. Later on, in the next few weeks, you're going to go over pain and pleasure in a lot more detail. These questions are more just for the reality phase, just to get our understanding. But Sharice is going to take you through how to touch on that pain and pleasure in a lot more detail. Lovely stuff. Team, for the last piece of the puzzle before we cap off for the summary, I just want you to sit up nice and tall in your chair for a second. Take a few deep breaths. Relax yourself. Put a smile on your face. Open up those endorphins. Now you can do this with your eyes closed, your eyes open. It's up to you. But firstly, just take one more deep breath in, all the way in. And fully exhale. Now I want you to visualize the goal that you've set for yourself. And I want you to put yourself into the future. And I want you to visualize yourself after you've achieved the goal. You've just accomplished this thing that you've set out to achieve. Feel what it feels like to have that euphoric feeling of having accomplished this thing you've wanted so, so badly. What do you see around you? I want you to pick 3 things you can see. I want you to pick 2 things you can hear. And I want you to smile and soak up that feeling of having crossed the finish line, of having grown, and of having become the person that is capable of not only achieving what you have wanted to achieve, but of being able to keep it. The achievement is good, but who you are and who you have become will last so much longer than that. I want you to take one last big deep breath in. Hold that breath. Exhale. And open your eyes. How does it feel to have achieved what you want? Let me know in the chat. Give me one word to describe. How does that feel? And when we do an activity like this, it's not because the universe is going to magically bring it into being. It's to let your brain visualize what it's like to have achieved that thing. Because the brain cannot tell the difference between something that's real and something that is vividly imagined. And when you do that, you put your brain in a state where it'll start overcoming obstacles. How much easier is it to overcome an obstacle when you know that it's possible? How much easier is it to solve a challenge when you know that there's light on the other side of the tunnel? When you put your brain into a state like this, you access a deeper level of resourcefulness. When your brain thinks it's already achieved, it can find solutions to the problems that you already have. So this is an activity I would highly suggest you do. You can use this as a meditation. In this industry, people talk a lot about visualization and affirmation. And it's not that visualization and affirmation creates some magical thing in the universe. What it does, as Dilraj says, it gives you hope. You are communicating to your brain that this thing is possible. Because if your brain does not think it's possible, it will not come up for solutions to your problems. Because why would I waste the fuel to drive to my destination if I don't think I can actually get there? So this is what we want to encourage from ourselves and from our clients. And lastly, team, just to cap off and set us up for next week's session, we have now gone through goal setting and reality, understanding the client's model of the world, using all the tools we've learned over these last 8 weeks, understanding what they value, what their needs might be, what emotions they're experiencing, what obstacles are in their way, what story they tell themselves about their current situation. We have learned how to set a goal, a specific goal that's measurable, that's achievable for them right now, and that is relevant, the most important piece, because it's linked to the values that they actually cherish the most. And if they're setting a goal that's not linked to their values, they are doomed to fail. Not because they won't achieve it, but because they will not feel fulfilled when they do. Once we've laid these foundations, we can now start to pinpoint obstacles. What are the big roadblocks? We can then decide which are the most important ones to tackle, and it's not always the biggest ones. We can brainstorm options to overcome these, and we're going to show you some tools and questions to start helping them generate better options, because the options always fall into 2 categories: change your mindset about it or do something different. And we will show you, based on what we've learned in the past 8 weeks, how we can put these into action. And last but not least, set a clear action step. From our conversation today, what is one new thing you commit to do? I commit to breathing when I get angry and reframing the situation. I commit to putting in my proposal at work for that promotion. I commit to laying my workout clothes out the night before so I get into the gym tomorrow morning. This is a tangible, actionable step that you set with the client so that they can move forward and make progress. So, well done today, team. I know this content is not easy. As you know, we got to go through your biggest win of the day. Dilraj, you are first on my screen today, so you are lucky number 1. Please unmute yourself and let us know what is your biggest win for the day.
My biggest win of today is that the wheel of awareness that you told, that was the biggest win. Like, first you define everything, and that way you are able to know where you are lacking.
100%.
Just to instead of getting everything mixed up and all, the separation makes your mind more clear and helps you set the goals.
Beautiful.
That is my biggest
Amazing.
win.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Dilraj. Very powerful. Very happy that you had that experience. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Amy, all you.
Okay, thank you. I think I found it interesting, like you said, that there were 2 types of people in general that would, probably come to you. The ones that have like a clear goal and the ones that are just like you said, life sucks and I hate my life. So, I mean, that's, good to know and and to look out for, I guess. Yeah, I enjoyed what is it, the wheel of life or awareness, and like you said about putting them in order and then having the client, choose which one is the most important to them. So you're not the one who's going to, to pick it. They have to be the one to tell you. And I would just say in general that I finally feel today like that, before, like when I started, honestly, I was like, I didn't think that I would learn this much. Like, it was like pieces of the puzzle like scattered everywhere. It was just like it was too much. But now today I finally feel like the puzzle is coming together. So that's a good feeling, you know. So I'm hoping by the end of this, we'll have, you know, I'll feel confident enough to actually do this life coach thing. So yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Amy. Yeah, so grateful to hear that. So happy to hear that. I did tell you so, but I'm stoked that you got there regardless. Yeah. No, and guys, all jokes aside, it's normal. Like I've said, we've taken probably almost 1,000 people through all of our courses by now. And I can tell you, I can normalize for you that this is a normal feeling. Now everything's going to click into place. And as soon as you start practicing, it'll make sense. So great job. Thank you so much, Amy. Sana, the floor is yours. Or the Zoom screen, I guess.
Hi, everyone, again. My biggest one for this session is the goal setting. And now working in a company and applying the goal setting, the same goal setting, that makes me think that the work setting and our personal life is the same. We do use the same SMART model. And in this goal setting, I see specific is one of the most important thing, because if you want to work on yourself or you want to help someone else, they have to be very specific about what they want to change or what they want to be. If they are, it is again similar to what Amy said. If they are not sure what is their problem, I think it will be difficult to help them. I'm sure with time you'll get the experience how to manage those people who are not sure about what issues. Like me, I have a lot of issues that I have to work on. So I see specific is very important starting point. Like in work environment, we have to put a KPI based on the goal. We have to reach this KPI. So a lot of things related to the model, the goal setting model. So this is what I really liked about in this.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sana. Really appreciate your input. And I think it's, you know, like Sana was saying, and I think it's important to mention on that point, right? You know, every client is different. They're going to work through different phases of the grow model very differently. So for example, like a pattern I've noticed, when you work with younger people, it takes a long time to kind of coax out of them what the problem is, what they actually want, because young people specifically usually lack an awareness around their values. So sometimes you might spend a month and a half simply trying to help this person understand what matters to me so that I can set an effective goal. So all of these phases, people move through them at different paces, right? Based on where they are in their life. Sometimes people are like, I know exactly what I want. I just need help getting there. And sometimes other people just feel lost. Sometimes it happens at 16. Sometimes it happens again at 35, right? That's why they call it a midlife crisis. Because what's happened is you've lost the values that you used to hold dear, and now you've got a blank slate and you're like, who am I? So that's why each of these phases are so important and so powerful in of themselves. Like Dilraj said, right? Sometimes just compartmentalizing things to find the problem is such a breakthrough. Just that alone can be so, so powerful. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sana. Joanna, you weren't first today and you spoke all about your public speaking, but you are up next. Let us know.
Yes. Can you hear me? Because now I'm on the phone, laptop switched off. So for today, the most important part for me was the coaching tool and the 0 step, the warm-up, because actually it gave me an insight on how we will have to do those 3 trial coaching sessions. And as Amy said, everything now, we can see the bigger picture now, because so far we have received only just the pieces of puzzle, but everything is clearer now. So
awesome.
I'm looking forward to the other steps now.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Joanna. And I really do hope everyone is feeling like that now. And Can you also see why it's so important to go through those other phases for yourself personally without the coach's hat on? And now we bring them all together, right? Because without having that experience first and understanding what this thing is, it's very hard to apply it. Same thing when we take our fitness coaches, right? Joanna from the Pilates side, you got to do the thing first, right? You don't need to be perfect, but you've got to do the thing and then you can teach it, right? Awesome. Jonathan, let us know. Jonathan will be up next. Mobin will be there after. Let me know if you can speak with us, Jonathan.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Got you.
Yeah, the biggest win for me was I really enjoyed the visualization at the end. Yeah, I think I would really try to use that in my coaching, hopefully one day, because I could literally like see what's happening and I could hear what the people were like clapping hands and stuff. So it was really a cool exercise. Thank you.
Beautiful stuff, Jonathan. Love it. Can't wait to see that happen in reality. It will happen, no doubt. Mobin, last but not least, let us know.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, louder than ever before, which is great.
Yeah, usually I have bad network or something. Today also I got bad network. But anyway, I caught up with the session, and it was very interesting how you start with understanding, um, clearly trying to get a goal from the client, and then that's where you start working and understanding where the problem is, and going towards the current situation where they actually stand, and the whole cycle, and of course the wheel of awareness. It was very interesting and very intense. Of course, when we did the exercise also, it was very interesting, and I found it very useful.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Mobin. Spot on. Team, thank you very, very, very much. Really appreciate your time and energy as always. I'm so glad the session was helpful. Keep it up. Keep your head up. Keep working. Sharisi will be with you on Wednesday. I will see you in 1 week's time. If you need anything, let us know, and I will speak to you very soon. Thank you, team. Have a lovely night. Bye-bye.